Hi, everybody. This is Kimiko Sumi, and I just want to do a little random talk and about things that are on my mind right now. And I've been thinking, I've been aware of this for a while, but I just never really spoke on it on my channel. Although I've said things here and there about it, but not that much. I haven't really went that deep into the conversation about it. Well, anyway, what I want to discuss is how I remember when I had lost a whole lot of weight when I was 26 years old, and I remember because I used to be a patient for this mental health clinic because I have mental illness, and they had caseworkers, and they would give you like a free apartment, or they would have you pay 30% of your rent, X, Y, and Z. So basically, I noticed that I would realize that. Well, actually, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't realize it at the time. But I am a targeted individual. Although I have a mental illness and I have schizophrenia, and that can make you paranoid and suspicious. But I literally, really am a targeted individual who experiences gang stalking. So, but at the time when I was 26, I didn't really know that that's what I was going through. Now, I would realize every time I would like lose weight or get to a certain goal, it seemed like the case managers would show up at my door, and they were a huge trigger for me because a lot of them were racist. They were very intrusive and rude. And my main goal of losing weight was to have the confidence to get away from them, which I did. It did happen. But I noticed around that time, I would go up on the scale every time they would come to my door. I got to a point where I wouldn't even open up my door anymore for them. But I noticed that they would call a lot. They would, this one case manager in particular, who I do believe is a racist, a bona fide racist, she would come up to my door. I would see her through the peephole, and she would be putting things on my door, notes on my door. She would come a lot. She would be at my house a whole lot. And okay, I would not open up the door for her. I would not. That was actually my second apartment through them. And that apartment, I never allowed not one of those caseworkers in there when I actually did live in that apartment, okay? Because they were so rude, they were so cruel, they had no tact when it came to their mouth. They liked to insult, they would love to gaslight me, and they would love to use psychological tactics, and gaslight me and insult me and also stalk me. And it seemed like now I see with how it correlates with the gang stalking that I'm experiencing now. Those were nothing but demons harassing me all the time. They were gang stalking me, and I didn't realize that this is why they keep showing up. This is why they keep calling my phone. And it's not because they want to do their job. It's because they literally wanted access to me to try to get to break me down, okay, and get me up out of there in any way that they felt like they could try. But see, it seemed like they got very like afraid or very pissed off because I decided to abandon that apartment, although I had all new furniture. And that's another thing. I really didn't like it because I had to let them sit on my furniture, and I just didn't like it. I did not like that I had to invite unwanted guests into my house who had stereotypical things to say about me as a black woman. I was very perturbed by that. I was very angered by that subconsciously, not even subconscious, yes, subconsciously, but it became it became a time where it started to surface itself as me really, really being honest with myself about not wanting their company and wanting them to stay away from me. So basically, I every time this particular caseworker would come to my home, I would not open up the door at that second apartment. I would not open up the door for her, but I would see her coming over quite often, several times a week it seemed, to put notes on my door and knock at my door, and just she would just drop in anytime she felt like it. And they would often do that to me. And when we would meet up, like one time I remember this particular caseworker that was putting things on my door, my last straw, the last straw was when she suggested that I was mentally challenged, like my parents, okay? This is why that was the final straw, with the disrespect and the racism and the subtle attacks and the passive aggressiveness. I got tired of that. So by the time I lost the weight and finally got to my goal weight, after all of those struggles I would go up on the scale, down on the scale. Every time she would come over, it seemed like every time I would hit a milestone with my weight loss, she and other ones at that clinic would show up. Okay. And then I noticed that my weight would I don't even want to put that into atmosphere, but I just would struggle. And it would take me a while to get back down to my goal, to the weight that I was when they would come over. And then I would also be smaller. So it would go up and it would go down a little bit more. It would go up a little bit more, then it would go down. And I noticed that this would happen every time they tried to get in contact with me. So basically, when I did get to my goal weight, I left their ass behind. I left all those races behind. And I know they didn't like it. I could feel it intuitively that they didn't like it, because they felt like they were losing their grip and control on me, because they were super narcissists. I really think they were just sociopaths, because they enjoyed my pain, and they really didn't like me because I was a younger black female, I believe. And I guess maybe other black women intimidated them in the past who were younger, so they felt like they had scored when I was their client or whatever. They scored, and they would do whatever they could to lump me in a box and stuff me in a box so that they could unleash their anger for black girls or younger black women who intimidated them outside of their job, so they could put it on me and take all their anger out on me, because they knew that they could dangle my living situation over my head at the time. But they got paranoid, and they got very they got very terrified, because I bounced. I left all that stuff. I did break up a whole lot of stuff, so they couldn't really salvage any of my new things for themselves. And I think what was the icing on the cake for me leaving was that I left all my fat girl clothes for them to pick through, and they could have them. And it was just a simple fact. It really was either that or both. The reason why, another reason why that's on the same tier as me leaving those fat girl clothes. Another reason why they were probably angry is because what was I gonna say? Just by the fact that I had lost all that weight, and they just felt like they didn't have the grip anymore. They lost the grip. They were major narcissists, sociopaths, and control freaks, very racist. Now there were other different people of different races there working there, and those people weren't shit either. Even the black women, even the black people in general, they weren't shit. They were rude, they were unprofessional, and I can still feel them trying to access my energy. They really want to be able to tell me what to do soon, and I'm not having it. I'm not having it at all. Okay, I use prayer, I use meditation to keep them back and at bay. I meant it. When I did that, I meant it. When I left them behind years ago, I meant it. Okay? So, basically, like I said, it was different races too, but the caseworkers that I would normally deal with, they would be either white or another race. And I noticed that they seem to have strong biases and racial hangups with black women and younger black women in particular, okay? And since I didn't want to get set up, I didn't want to end up having to hurt one of them or cuss them out, because they would have tried to write me up like it was a job and put me out of that apartment anyway, which is why I left it behind, because I was going to end up snapping anyway, probably more than likely. And I had social anxiety, so it was either fight or flight. And that's why I decided to flight once I got to my goal weight. And that, I know that just pissed them off, because I didn't use violence. I used my mind, and I said, you know what, Kimiko, you're going to get to this goal weight. And after this, which I did get to that goal weight, and I said, after this, you taking your ass to California on a plane. And I did just that. So with this video, in closing, just remember, you don't have to accept anybody else's abuse. If somebody offers you food and you refuse it, who does the food belong to? It belongs to them. So just like if they are rude to you or insult you, you don't have to accept their abuse. That's theirs to carry. So I'm going to leave y'all on that note. And I will see or talk to y'all in another video soon. And I hope my lotus flowers have an amazing rest of the day or an amazing evening. And I hope you like, comment, subscribe, share my video, hit the notification bell if you like. And I will see y'all in another one, my lotus flowers. So have an amazing evening, and I will see y'all later. Peace.